Before we start the recorded presentation, I want to address something that you may be wondering about. You may be wondering if now is still a good time to start a private practice, and the answer is yes. People need services and SLPs need income. So, is now a good time to start a private practice? Yes, if you're willing to start with telepractice and then shift into in-person therapy when you're able. The process of starting a business with private clients, either in person or via telepractice, is the same. Since 2008, I have taught over 10,000 SLPs how to get more freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment by starting a private practice full-time or on the side. By now, I have this process down to an exact science and have welcomed hundreds of people into my newest program, the Start Your Private Practice System, where I talk about in the free training that you're about to watch. In the free training, I share my 5-step system that I teach in the premium course, which helps people start off with a vision, get their ducks in a row, market their services, and get paid by private pay and third-party payers such as insurance, Medicare, and Medicaid. Now, I originally taught folks how to get up and running with traditional in-person private therapy and then branch into telepractice later, as that's the way that most people did it. So everything I teach in the training and in the course still applies. You're just going to need to change the order of seeing clients via telepractice first and then seeing your clients in person. No matter what, you still need to solidify your vision, get your ducks in a row. You still need to get the word out about your services and decide how you're going to get paid, which you still need to do with telepractice. And it's even easier than ever to get paid by insurance, Medicare, and Medicaid to cover therapy services delivered via telepractice. Then I also teach you how to start to grow and scale your practice, which you can do via telepractice or in person. So while you may not have envisioned starting your private practice with telepractice, here we are. And you can switch to in-person services as soon as possible or keep going with telepractice, as there are actually some major pluses. For this reason, I have added information on telepractice to the paid course. I don't mention in the training because at the time of the recording, only a small percentage of SLPs were interested in starting with telepractice. Now that everyone is doing telepractice, it's essential information. And for that reason, it has been added to the course free of charge. All of the business building activities you need to do to start your private practice are exactly the same. So sit back, enjoy the free presentation about starting a private practice. Now is a time for leadership. Your community needs you to step up and help them. This training will help you identify how to do that. Then go out there and help your people. And please, while you're at it, help yourself too. Enjoy the training. Hello, my name is Jenna Castor-Casbon, and I want to welcome you to this free introductory training called How to Start a Private Practice Full-Time or on the Side, even if you don't have startup costs or feel like you know what you're doing. So you're in the right place if you're an SLP who wants to start a private practice either full-time or on the side, and you're not sure what the steps are. You're also in the right place if you're interested in starting a private practice but are worried about not being ready or whether this is the right time, and you're terrified of making a mistake. You are also in the right place if you are burned out or close to burned out at your current position and you want more control over your schedule, your income, and your life. There's something that is drawing you to private practice. What is it? As I'm speaking, let me know in the chat box what it is. Why is it that you're here, and why are you on this training? What would having a successful private practice mean for your life? All right, I want you to think about this now and as this training goes on, and know that you are in the right place. All of the reasons why people are drawn to private practice are usually have to do with freedom, right? And I'm going to talk a lot about this in this presentation, so stay tuned. Now, I want to let you know about a free gift for staying until the very end of the webinar. I have a tool that I created called the Private Practice Annual Income Estimator. so that you can know before you get started what your annual income potential in private practice is. In fact, I want you to write calculator in the chat box if you're the kind of person who likes to play with the numbers. And that's why I want to give you this calculator. But you have to stay until the very end to get it. And during the presentation, I'm actually going to talk about a lot of the numbers associated with private practice because this is something that, again, I want you to be clear on from the very, very beginning. Now, this training is not for you if you already have a private practice and aren't a beginner, if you're not interested in being a successful private practitioner or are just looking for free CEUs. I'm not a CEU provider, so sorry. This training is also not for you if you plan on watching this entire free presentation and then get upset when I give you the opportunity to invest in a program that offers the step-by-step information you need to start working with ideal private clients on your own terms. Here's my promise to you. I promise that you'll learn more about private practice in the next 60 minutes than you ever learned in graduate school. I also promise that I will help you better understand the ins and outs of private practice before you do any leaping or jumping. Also, none of this is based on theory. There's a right way and a wrong way to do this, folks, and I want to make sure that you know that. If you get nothing else out of this presentation, I want you to know that starting a private practice is actually relatively easy, but there are specific steps that need to be followed and in a certain order. Make sense? All right, let's keep moving. In return, I ask that you'll keep an open mind about the new information that you'll learn today. Also, that you'll treat me and the other attendees with respect. And I also ask that when you realize that private practice is the opportunity that you're looking for, you'll take action and commit by starting with the resources that I present to you today. I want to share a few tips for you to watch this training. First, I want you to get in a quiet room, turn off your phone so that you can devote your whole attention to this training. As an SLP, you work hard for others, so I want you to treat yourself to this time of shifting the attention to how you can help yourself. Close any tabs or applications to increase the bandwidth of the presentation. You've reserved a spot on this training, and I want to make sure that you get the most out of it, because this may very well be the most important presentation you have ever seen. During this training, you'll learn the 3 biggest mistakes to avoid when starting a private practice. I'll also share with you my 5-step framework for starting a successful private practice with confidence. And I want you to know that this is the exact same framework that I teach inside of my paid implementation program, the Start Your Private Practice System. For a quick second, let's go back to grad school. While I'm talking, let me know in the chat where you went to grad school. I went to Emerson College in Boston, which I absolutely love, where I still teach an undergraduate course and do some clinical supervision. In graduate school, we learned about what ASHA now calls the Big Nine. Now, I'm not sure what they called it when you were in school or even when I was in school, but these are the big curricular topics that I learned about, and I'm sure you did too. I loved every minute of learning about this stuff. My favorite courses were aphasia and cognitive communication disorders. But do you know what I never formally learned about? Private practice. What about you? Did you learn much of anything about private practice when you were in grad school? I had to learn everything on my own, over time, using trial and error. When I started, there was no class or how-to guide. Starting a private practice was the #1 way that I took control over my professional, personal, and financial life. And speaking of life, I want to introduce myself quickly. My name is Jenna Castor-Casbon. I'm a mom, a wife, and when I'm not helping people start their private practices, I can probably be found playing with these handsome fellas. So I know what it's like to be busy. I also run an amazing Facebook group. You've hopefully heard of the SLP Private Practice Beginners Facebook group. Hopefully you're in it. If not, please request to join. I'd love to have you. Or maybe you've heard of my podcast, where I interview some of my best students who took action and now have their dream private practices. It's available on iTunes, Google Play, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. I've also been able to help people on a deeper level by being invited to speak at conferences like ASHA Connect, or in my more intensive paid programs the Start Your Private Practice system, and the Grow Your Private Practice coaching program for private practitioners with existing private practices. I always had an idea that I would end up in private practice. How about you? Let me know in the chat box. Is private practice something that you've been thinking about for a while, or is it something that you've never thought about, but here you are? I think it was my dad that planted the seed when I was applying for grad school that maybe one day I would have a private practice. He was a businessman and he really wanted me to go into business. Now, his business was land title insurance. And so, no, I wasn't interested in that. I was like, Dad, no, I'm a helping people person, not a business person. Business is boring and I'm not really about the money. I just want to help people. But the truth is, my dad saw something in me that I couldn't see for myself yet. Then, sometime during grad school, we had a guest speaker come talk about her private practice. And she looked so confident and she was so knowledgeable. And she had a cool look with nice clothes and a funky necklace. And I wanted to be just like her. I had no idea what her day to day life was like, really, but from what I could tell, it looked awesome. And I wanted to be like her. But then she left and grad school went on, and I fell in love with working with adult neuro, and I graduated and got my first job. I was incredibly lucky to land my dream job as a CF. I was fresh out of grad school and wanted to be the best SLP I could be. I wanted to help my clients, not just a little bit, but I wanted to really help them and their families too. So I'm going along and for about a year or two into the field, and I started to come up against some things that really bothered me. I started to feel like I wasn't able to be as effective at my job as I wanted to be. Things like productivity requirements and meetings and endless paperwork and not having control over how many visits people got really started to weigh on me. And before long, instead of feeling like I was going to change the world with my super SLP skills, I began to feel ineffective and stuck. Does this sound familiar to anyone? Anyone else feeling stuck in their jobs? If you've been struggling with job satisfaction and burnout and feeling stuck, it's because you're right. You have very little control. It is really, really hard to not be able to do your best work as an SLP because of external limitations. It's really, really hard when another year rolls around and you don't get a raise again. And if you're struggling, guys, it's not your fault. The deck is stacked against you. But don't worry, there's hope. In fact, just when I was starting to question whether things would ever get better or if I should start looking for a new job or maybe even leave the field altogether, something crazy happened. It was around this time that I was starting to feel really low, and I realized something about two of my coworkers over lunch. Those rare lunches when you actually get to sit and talk to your coworkers about stuff other than work? Anyway, it came out that two of my coworkers had their own small private practices on the side. I knew that they worked part-time at the hospital with me, but I didn't really think about what they might be doing when they weren't working with me. So as it turned out, they both had wildly successful private practices serving just a few clients a few times a week. I was dumbfounded. I had no clue it could work that way. So I started asking them a million questions, and the light bulbs started going off one by one. It turns out they didn't have rented clinic space. They saw their clients in the clients' homes. They explained that while they could have office space, it was an easier option and a much cheaper one not to. I had no idea that that was a possibility. I always thought that being in private practice meant that you needed to spend most of your money on clinic space, which I knew was a lot of overhead, and I didn't know how I would ever be able to afford that. Then they said something else that really surprised me. It turned out they were both private pay only. Neither one of them dealt with insurance, and they were paid via check on the day of their services, and people willingly paid for their services. I guess I knew that some private practices were private pay only, but this option just sounded so much easier than dealing with complex billing or delays in payments. Then I asked if it was lucrative, and they both nodded and smiled. One of them mentioned that they made more money in a few hours a week than entire days at the hospital. Now,
I wasn't all about the money, and neither were they, but it was intriguing to realize the possibility of cutting out the middleman. I was also surprised to learn that they had had their private practices for a long time, years and years, since they were closer to my age. That one really shifted my perspective. They were both more middle aged at the time, and I guess I assumed that's when most people started their private practices. I thought that private practice was something you did after you'd been in the field for more like 15 or 20 years. Huh. I couldn't believe these things. It was like finding out about Santa Claus or something. Everything I thought was true about private practice was out the window. This was a truly life altering moment for me. On that day, I realized that there is no one way to have a private practice. My visions of waiting to be an older SLP so that I had enough experience and money to rent a brick and mortar practice with a waiting room were shattered. All I saw was possibility and opportunity to break out of what was expected and follow a different path, my own path. So earlier, I told you about how stuck I was feeling before this chance lunchtime conversation. I was stuck and I was frustrated, becoming unhappy with all of the limitations on my ability to give good client care. So then something really cool happened. One of them said, "Have you ever been asked to treat privately?" I thought about it, and yes, I had. But I had always referred that client to one of them, never thinking that I could treat them myself. They encouraged me to say yes the next time someone asked, and I thought about it a lot, like every day. So they got me all set up and ready. And after a few weeks, someone asked me if I treated privately. This was it. This was my moment. The moment I knew would come. My heart was racing. I was a mix of crazy excited and crazy scared, and I freaked out and I said no. This was for a child with autism, and that's not my area of specialty anyway, so it was an easy referral to make, but I was still a little bummed and felt like I had let myself and them down. So a few weeks later, a friend of mine from grad school called and asked if I could treat a man with aphasia. I spoke with his wife and I got all the info about him, and I felt like I could truly help him and his family. And then I said my rate without quivering. "Perfect," she said. "When can you start?" This was it. My first client was scheduled. I couldn't believe it. I was so happy to have said yes and to actually be moving forward with this journey that I had just begun. So that was the start of this whole adventure. Once you say yes to your first client, momentum builds and word of mouth builds and your experience builds and your confidence builds. Every private practice starts with one client. All of those successful private practitioners you see, like the guest speaker I had back when I was in grad school, the one with the cool clothes and the gorgeous scarf, she also started with one client. My private practice did, and yours will too. Can you imagine what it would be like when you have your own clients to treat? When you have 2 sessions a week, or 5 or 10 or 30? What will it feel like to be your own boss? What will it feel like when you have the freedom and the flexibility that you crave? When you take back that control of your life and your income? So I kept going with this, and after about 2 years, I decided to take what I had learned and start creating resources for regular clinicians just like me. People who had a dream and a desire to help more people while having more control over their professional, their personal, and their financial lives. I help people get started the easy way. Let me know in the chat box if you want to know the easy way to do this too. Great, because that's what we're going to do right now. I want to make something clear. I am not special. I had a dream and I figured out how to make it come true, and I never gave up. Private practice isn't easy street. It has plenty of its own limitations, but if you're looking for more control over your schedule, your caseload size, and the types of clients you see, your income, and more, I want to share how this can work for you too. In private practice, you get to be in charge of the treatments you give. You get to choose which clients you'll see. You get to be in charge of your flexible schedule, and there is no ceiling on the income that you can earn. And most importantly, You get the power to choose to live your best life as a clinician, as a mom or a family member, and as a person. There are two paths to starting a private practice. Path number one, I call the long and winding road. There are stops and starts, rocky roads, frustration, confusion, and angst. Or you can take the stairs. You do the work, complete the steps, and walk up the stairs to the top. Yes, walking upstairs isn't necessarily easy, there's still work involved, but there's one clear goal, right? And there's only one direction. And there are specific steps to get there. And once you're there, you're there. Make sense? All right, let's talk about three major and common mistakes to avoid when starting a private practice. Mistake number one, believing that you have to wait until you're ready to start your private practice. Who here loves to get their ducks in a row, right? SLPs love to get their ducks in a row. People who join the Start Your Private Practice system also love to get their ducks in a row. In fact, many say that it's the number one reason why they join my program. Here, Claudia mentions how she was frozen by analysis paralysis and fear, but once she knew all of the steps, she was able to move forward. People think that they need to do all of those things before you start a private practice, but you don't. You can and should do them after you're underway so that you don't get bogged down with them. Your speed doesn't matter. Forward is forward. Waiting for the right time for everything to be perfect and for you to have all of your ducks in a row will actually keep you moving in the reverse direction, and you'll never open for business due to being stuck in analysis paralysis. All right, mistake number two, believing that starting a private practice is too risky. So, one of the biggest things I hear people say is that they are worried about making a mistake and getting sued. Let me know in the chat, what is your greatest fear when it comes to starting a private practice? Because if you're anything like me, there are a lot of fears involved in starting something new. Anything new, but especially something big like this. SLPs tend to be risk averse type A people who don't want to make a mistake. We all know the exceptions to this rule, right? The crazy friend you had in grad school or your old coworker, but in general, we are mostly type A as a profession. I'm actually more of a type B SLP, and private practice is great for type B people as well. A lot of people think that starting a private practice is too risky and that they're terrified of making a mistake, but there are very specific ways to minimize your legal, financial, and personal risk. What is it about making a mistake that is so scary, especially in private practice? You guys, mistakes are learning opportunities. Now, unless you do something fraudulent or unethical, right, that mistake is on you. The mistakes that you're going to learn and that you're going to make are little mistakes, like not charging enough at first, or forgetting to bill a client, or put your email address on a business card and have to get them reprinted. There are easy ways to minimize the risks involved. Now, we'll talk about some of these more in depth in a few minutes, but there are ways to document your services properly. There are ways to make sure that you have enough of the right type of liability insurance. There are ways to make sure that you don't bite off more than you can chew expense wise. And while it may feel scary to wonder where your clients are going to come from, there are marketing methods that I teach people to use to not only get their first clients, but then replacement clients after you discharge that first round. This is what I teach people in my courses because I know that people are scared and I want to help people move past their fears by following simple steps. One of the easiest ways to minimize your financial risk is to start seeing clients on the side versus leaping into private practice. So if you see people on the side, you see clients after work, on the weekends, or over the summer. You build your caseload, your income, and your confidence. Then you can transition to do full-time private practice when you're ready to grow. As your caseload and your referrals grow, you can also decrease your hours at your regular job and increase your time at private practice. In fact, one of my students said, I think I just assumed if you decided to go the private practice route, you had to quit your job and go for it full time. It's less scary to know that that's not the only option. In fact, according to the 2015 ASHA Healthcare Survey, over 60% of private practitioners worked in private practice part time. I'm guessing that's a higher number than you may have thought. Private practice is not either or. There are many SLPs with small, successful private practices on the side. Some folks even keep their practices that way, and others scale up much bigger. It's totally up to you. I started by treating clients on the side of my regular job and after work and on the weekends. I didn't reduce my hours, at first anyway, so that I didn't lose out on that income that I was depending on. This was something of an extra security that I did for myself. I wanted to keep that security and the stability of the regular job until I got enough clients and a wait list before reducing my hours. Make sense? Let me know in the chat. Did you know that you could do that? Did you know that having a successful part time private practice was an option and that it counted as a private practice? I didn't know that. I thought you were either in private practice, meaning that that's all that you did, or that you didn't have a private practice at all. Even if you start with one or two private clients, that counts as having a private practice. In fact, you can say things like, "Oh, yes, I have a small private practice." It's kind of fun to say. People don't care that it's small, it's still impressive anyway. Do you want to know the biggest risk associated with private practice? Because I bet it's one that you haven't thought of yet. So I want to make sure that you're aware of it so that you can avoid it. Okay, the biggest risk, the biggest thing that is going to stop you from ever having a successful private practice is not starting. The biggest risk in this whole thing is not being able to get out of your own way and just start, knowing that you're going to make some mistakes, but you'll learn from them. Trusting that you'll have enough of the right kinds of clients. Knowing that you are documenting and billing properly, knowing that you have the safeguards in place to protect your private practice. This is what I help people with. Every day you don't do this, people are going without therapy and you are going without extra income. You guys are smart, you know this stuff. You just need to see that for every day that you aren't treating clients, people are missing out. They are missing out on much needed, high quality therapy. You are missing out on helping more people. You're missing out on income. You're missing out on fulfilling your dreams. You're missing out on spending time with your kids or being that clinician that you always wanted to be back when you started. The risks are manageable if you follow the steps I teach and do the right things. And really, the biggest risk of all, the risk of never starting, is also manageable by starting. Start students aren't missing out. They have started their private practices and are getting paid via private pay, insurance companies, Medicare, and Medicaid. Imagine how good it will feel when you get paid for the first time without having to share that money with the middleman. You earn it and keep it. Start students not only get to help more people, but they get paid and paid well while they do it. The third mistake is believing that you have to wait until late in your career to start your private practice. As I mentioned before, I had no clue that it would be possible to do this earlier. In fact, I started my private practice within a year of getting my C's. Now, that might surprise or even shock people, but I made sure that I had valuable skills to offer, even though I had less experience. So here's what I did. I realized that I could take courses to level up my knowledge as I gained experience. I completed the Lee Silverman voice training program for adults with Parkinson's. That's how I got my start. Quick point here though. I'm not talking about misrepresenting yourself in any way. That would be a violation of the code of ethics. That's not what I'm talking about. Let me know in the chat. What are some certification or advanced training programs that either you've already done or that you could do as a private practitioner? Do you see how you have the knowledge and skills from these programs that you can put into use in your own private practice? Is this making sense? This may sound counterintuitive, but I recommend that you become an expert because of your private practice. Don't wait to become an expert before starting your private practice. If you do it that way, you will never feel expert enough and will never start. You don't have to have 20 plus years of experience to bring something to the table. So all of that knowledge that you already have or could easily get, it's all very marketable. It's also tax deductible. Go out there and add to your knowledge and skills and make sure that people know about it. Build your private practice with that knowledge, just like many of my students are doing. They are taking courses like LSVT and prompt and other things, and they are using that knowledge to get paid by private clients. You can do that too. Oh, and quickly, I have one bonus mistake that I really wanted to include. Some people believe that you have to have a business background in order to be successful in private practice. So I asked people in my group, before you started your private practice, did you have any business experience? By a landslide, people said no. They started a private practice without any sort of business background. Here is one of my favorite quotes: if you don't build your dream, someone will hire you to build theirs. It's much easier to just be an employee and follow someone else's rules. But for many of us, their rules are limiting, and we are committed to building our own dreams. Let me know in the chat box, what is your biggest takeaway so far? Great. So, you want to know what the steps are to actually build a private practice? That's what's up next. I'm going to teach you the 5-step framework inside of my course, the Start Your Private Practice System. I want you to take a screenshot of this. This is good stuff. What took me months to get started and years to perfect is only going to take you 90 days or less till you can see your first client. The first thing I'm going to teach you to do is how to picture your private practice. What do you want your private practice to look like? The good news is you get to make the rules. I used to think that there was only one way to have a private practice. I thought that all private practices were brick and mortar buildings with waiting rooms and a receptionist and that kind of stuff. It was only after that chat with my own colleagues that I realized that there were many, many ways to have a private practice. Here are some decisions that you get to make: what hours you work, which diagnoses you treat, where you see your clients, how much you charge, what services you offer, whether and who you hire, and what niche you choose. In private practice, you get to be the boss. There's no such thing as a perfect private practice, only one that's perfect for you. That's why the very first step in this 5-part framework is deciding what your perfect private practice is like for you. Your vision might change over time. It might start small and grow big, or you might have a big vision from day one. It's important that you have a vision and that you create a plan. It seems simple, but without nailing the first part, the next parts will be much, much harder. One of the very first things I have new students in the Start Your Private Practice system do is use this software to make a plan for when they will see their clients. You'll see that one of these students is going to see their clients after work and early mornings on the weekends. The other is going to see their clients on Friday afternoons and Saturdays. How cool is that? Are you already thinking about when you can see your clients? Okay, once you know what your initial private practice will look like, it's time to start getting those infamous ducks in a row and protect your private practice with a solid foundation. Getting the necessary protections to minimize your financial, legal, and personal risk isn't as hard and doesn't cost as much as you may think. Fear of startup costs is something that stops a lot of people. So let's talk about what the essential protections are and how much they cost. Before you start with any private client, you need professional liability insurance. It's the very first thing you need to protect yourself in your clinical license. It only costs about $100 a year, so that will be your first tax-deductible expense. Count on that. Then, depending on your city or town, you will need a business license. That is very quick, cheap, and easy to get. It's a simple application and it usually costs about $25. Then you will need to document your services. But rather than sign up for a computer-based software documentation system, you'll do that eventually, but you can actually get started with paper documentation and a locked filing cabinet from Target. So if you're keeping track, your initial investment is only $150. $150. Do you realize how insane that is? You're likely going to charge about $100 an hour when you get started, and you'll make that money back almost instantly. This is significantly cheaper than virtually any other business you could possibly start. And you certainly can make a lot more money than this. Now, you certainly can spend a lot more money than this. You can rent clinic space. You can buy a ton of assessments at $500 or more a pop. You can go on a treatment materials spending spree. You can buy those things, but you don't need them to get started. Protection is your number one most important expense when you're first getting started. In my course, I literally give people a list of all of the steps and tell people how to complete them step by step. This is the part where most people get stuck, but I don't want you or anyone else to get stuck here because I'm telling you, getting your ducks in a row is easier than you think, especially when you let me be your mama duck. Is all of this making sense? Is this feeling a little less intimidating? Isn't it amazing that you can literally start a private practice for about $150 and be profitable in just a few sessions, depending on how much you charge? Who else is like Meg and likes to dot their I's and cross their T's and use checklists? If you do, this is something that all START students get access to so that you will feel confident as well. So after you get all of your ducks in a row, you will move on to the promote phase, where you start to get the word out that you are ready to treat private clients. Once you have your ducks in a row, you're able to start seeing clients if you have any waiting in the wings. If you don't, this is the step where you get your first client or clients, but to do that, you have to start getting the word out. Remember that quote from the movie Field of Dreams, "If you build it, they will come"? Well, it doesn't work like that in real life or in private practice. If you build a private practice, you have to tell people about it and use simple but effective marketing strategies to fill your caseload to your desired level. When people get nervous about whether or not they'll be good at marketing, I remind them that marketing is communication. I'm going to say that again. Marketing is communication. That's great because if you're an SLP, you literally have a master's degree in communication, right? You teach people how to communicate effectively every single day. So here's how you'll apply your knowledge to be able to successfully market your private practice. All marketing is communicating the right message to the right people in the right way. It's way easier than people think. I don't want you to get all distracted or worried about marketing being glossy materials and bright colors or fancy gifts. It's really a lot more simple than that. It's basic. It's about effectively communicating with people who need help, something that I'm pretty sure you know how to do. And once you have your first clients, you need to get paid. Have you guys seen the videos of me mailing cards to my START students when they get their first client? I post them in the Facebook group and on Instagram. It's literally the highlight of my week. Every single week, I send out between 2 and 4 cards. Last week, I even sent out 4 cards while I was on vacation. Getting your first private client is a big milestone, and I want to celebrate it with my students. All right, let's talk about step 4. This is the step when we work on making sure that you get paid for your services. Now, lots of clinicians have difficult feelings about money when it comes to private practice. People tend to be nervous about charging for their services. They say things like, "I love this so much, I would do it for free." But the truth is, you have done it for free. You have done it for free for a long time. Anytime you've worked on the weekend or stayed late or brought materials to use with your clients that you weren't reimbursed for, you have worked for free. If you want to continue to be underpaid and underappreciated for what you do, private practice isn't right for you. Private practices are businesses. Businesses are designed to make money. You can be a helping people person and a business person at the same time. It is not either or. And if you know this information in your head, but you have a hard time accepting it in your heart, keep listening because I'm about to show you something that will help change some of your money mindsets. There are 3 main ways that private practitioners are paid: private pay, third party and payers like health insurance, and also Medicare and Medicaid and school contracts. I always recommend that people get started with private pay even if you're worried about sustaining this model long term. Quite simply, it's clean and easy. You exchange your time for someone else's money, paid by cash, check, or credit card, or even FSA card. If you do decide to go the insurance route, you will have to become a provider. This involves filling out an application, waiting to be approved, learning what they will and won't cover, and figuring out how to use their billing system. The learning curve is steep on this, which is why I don't recommend it for beginners. I do teach people how to deal with insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, and to get school contracts, but these are more advanced topics. In the beginning, you need to focus on getting your first clients, not the rest of your clients. No matter what, you have amazing skills to offer. There are people in your community who are willing to pay for your expertise. Let's talk about the numbers on this using a calculator that I developed for the Start Your Private Practice system, and that I'm actually going to give you for free for attending this presentation if you stay till the end. On the next couple of slides, I'm going to give you some hypothetical ballpark numbers, but I really want you to use this tool for yourself as many times as you need to feel confident. Okay, here we go. Let's just say that you started on a really small scale and you treat one client once a week over the course of a year and you charge $100 per session. Pre-tax, that would be $5,200. Let me know in the chat box if you would like an extra $5,200 this year. For how many of you would an extra $5,200 be more than your annual raise, or that you need for your kids' camp or a nice vacation? Now let's say that you see that client twice a week, or you see two different clients, so 2 sessions per week. And now you're at $10,400 and you still haven't quit your job. You followed what I teach and you haven't incurred a lot of expenses. You're doing just what you normally do during every session you have all day, only this time you're doing it around your schedule and planning to do as many of these private therapy sessions as you can imagine. How cool would that be? Boom. In just 16 sessions per week, which is 4 clients per day over 4 days or 2 long days of seeing clients, and now you're charging $125 as you have more experience, you're now able to net over $100,000 working part-time hours. That's unbelievable, isn't it? Okay, let's max it out, shall we? 30 sessions per week, charging $150 an hour, would be $234,000 per year pre-tax. Insane, right? Now, I wanted you to see that number, and even if you think that's unrealistic for you to do 30 sessions per week. Now, doing 30 sessions per week is a pretty full caseload. It's true. But if you are super in demand and an expert level clinician who can charge $150 per more, you can fill that. Oh, and you don't have to work all those hours either. You can hire independent contractors and employees to maximize those hours, right? Yes, you do have to pay them so the number goes down, but you can see how this works, can't you? And when you stay till the end and get access to your own calculator to run your numbers, it will make even more sense. Because I teach people to start small, let me know in the chat who could use an extra $5,000, $10,000, $25,000, $50,000, or $100,000 a year by working a few hours per week. So not only do START students get paid by insurance and also private pay, but they build their private practices debt-free. This program is set up in a way for folks to start debt-free or as close to debt-free as possible so that you can be profitable from the get-go. I don't want you stacking a business loan on top of student loans. In fact, many of our students use their private practice earnings to reinvest in their business, but to also pay off loans, pay for weddings, save for kids' college, or family vacations. One person in my course even did an amazing kitchen renovation. I want you to think about how you will spend your income. Okay, the last step, the prosper step. This step goes on for a really long time. In this phase, you continue to grow to the level of success that you desire. The sky is the limit here. There are 5 ways to grow a business, including a private practice. 1, see more clients, more volume. 2, charge a higher rate, more money. 3, minimize overhead, save money. 4, create consistent systems, which will save you time. And 5, free up your time for income producing activities. In the Prosper phase, I help people learn how to get more clients, hire staff to do simpler work, diversify your income, and use proven systems. Start students, prosper. After they've gone through the first steps and are starting to gain traction, start students really start to take off. They quit their regular jobs. They start to look for independent contractors and employees to hire. They start thinking bigger and grow into that ideal private practice they wanted and that they pictured from day one. It's really been amazing to watch. Okay, so to recap, the 4 mistakes are waiting until you're ready, believing that private practice is too risky, waiting until the end of your career, and thinking that you need a business background to start a private practice. So, again, this is that 5 step system that I teach SLPs who want to start their own successful private practices. If you didn't take a screenshot of it before, go ahead and do that. We talked about how to picture your private practice, protect your private practice, promote your private practice, get paid to see clients, and finally, how to prosper as a private practitioner. Notice the cycle image between promote, get paid, and prosper. That's because the last 3 steps happen over and over again. You market your services and get clients, you get paid, you prosper. You get another client, you get paid, you prosper, and so on. Does this make sense? Has this framework been easy to follow? And more importantly, do you think that this is something that you could do easily, especially if you knew all of the individual steps within each one? Who feels better about this now? Let me know in the chat. Do you think if you were able to start small and spent money on protecting your private practice, and then you got your first clients in an easy and not overwhelming way, and then instead of letting fear stop you from ever starting, do you think you could be successful? I hope you feel better about this and see how this can work for you, just like it worked for me and for my consulting clients, all of who are regular clinicians and were scared too. Private practice allows you to take back control of your life and your future. If you take away one thing from this presentation, I want you to know that you can be the clinician that you've always wanted to be on your terms. Now, in my experience as a private practice consultant, successful private practices don't build themselves. Now that we're about to start wrapping things up, what has been your biggest takeaway? Let me know in the chat box. I have developed this 5 step framework that makes it easy to start your own private practice, and I've outlined that system for you today. The good news is you can cut the learning curve with a system that's proven to work time and time again. You have permission to do this for yourself, for your clients, for your future, but you might need some help to get there. So allow me to serve you. I hope that you've gotten some value from the presentation today. I hope that you learned something that you didn't know before. I hope that you saw something in a way that you didn't see before. And I've got more for you. There is so much more where this comes from. So the big question is, will you apply this framework to your own life and finally start your dream private practice? Choice number 1. You can do it on your own and risk making mistakes or skipping steps. Or you can do choice number 2 and fast track your results with my step-by-step process, the Start Your Private Practice system. Is it okay if I spend about 10 minutes to share with you a special offer? Are you okay if I show you how to implement this stuff? You felt overwhelmed, and I promised that this would only last an hour, so I stuck mostly to that. But the good news is, to stop feeling overwhelmed, I'm going to walk you through all of the things you need to finally start your private practice with confidence. So I put together this cool package that I call the Start Your Private Practice System, and currently it is only open for people viewing this training. It is not open to the general public. I only do that a couple times per year. I will show you how to step by step build your private practice from the ground up. The first thing that we're going to do is to solidify your vision. In the book, Secrets of a Millionaire Mind, T. Harv Elkar says the number one reason why most people don't get what they want is because they don't know what they want. So, with that in mind, that's where we're going to start. I will help you figure out what you want and then make a simple plan to achieve this. As part of this, you'll write a functional business plan, and then you'll be able to use that as a roadmap to follow for your private practice journey. Next, I will make sure that you get all of your ducks in a row and lay a firm foundation for success using my protection plan checklist. This will help you learn how to minimize your risk and again, lay a solid foundation for future success. In Module 3, I'm going to walk you through my 3-part promotion framework. We're going to talk about where you're going to find your first clients with little to no financial investment, how to promote yourself without being pushy, and how to build clientele as you grow using my 3-part framework, which will serve as your marketing plan. Then I walk you through billing and getting paid to see your clients. That's the fun part. I call it the get paid formula. First, we're going to identify which payer sources will work best for you in your practice. I will also help you understand billing and reimbursement so that you can get paid consistently and on time. We're also going to talk about how to understand and calculate overhead so that you can be financially smart from the very beginning. And then in Module 5, we're going to lay out your prosperity plan. We're going to refine and maybe redefine your original vision and determine a growth strategy for you that's exciting and comfortable, and also start to streamline your systems so that you can work smarter and not harder. I want to let you know about 2 fast-acting bonuses that you can get if you purchase between now and the end of the webinar. They are only available for people who decide to enroll during this period. The first fast action bonus that we have is called the Start Your Private Practice Printable Checklist. It lists out all of the steps you need to complete to start your private practice in order, and it corresponds to the curriculum so that you can go back and watch a training video if you need to. That is valued at $497. And the other bonus I have is what's called the debt-free private practice. One of the things that people get terrified about is whether or not they have to stack business loans on top of student loans. My method teaches you to start virtually debt-free with minimal cost. And if you have things like loans or a mortgage or things that you're saving for, how to use your private practice income to pay down those debts. So instead of doing what some people do, which is waiting to start a private practice until you can afford it, I teach the opposite, which is to use your private practice income to pay down your debts and boost your savings. That is valued at $297. Remember, these fast-acting bonuses are only available if you purchase during this enrollment period. I want to make sure that you have no excuses. I want to make sure that you have everything you need to be successful on your own terms and in a way that works for you and for your family. So you already have the Start Your Private Practice course. What else do you need to be successful? Did you like that handy income calculator that I showed you? I'm already going to give you that tool, but how about some other things? What about that calendar that I showed you and some other calculators? Not only are you going to get access to that calculator I told you about, but to a few more calculators and other tools as well. I'm also going to give you a master list of recommended software for billing, electronic medical records, fax machine services, secondary phone numbers, website builders, and more, so that you can save time and money by choosing to use the tried and true resources versus wasting your time trying to figure things out and always wondering if you've picked the right system. Oh, and when I have discount codes or coupon codes to pass along, you know I will. I've found that one of the biggest stumbling blocks for people is picking a great name for their private practice. So, this resource will help get you unstuck and inspired so you can start seeing clients and stop wasting time. I'll help you pick a name that works for you now and in the future and isn't already taken. I also want to include the Set Your Rate course. This walks you step by step through the process of picking a private pay rate that's fair to you and your clients. And I also talk about how to raise your rates so you're not leaving money on the table as time goes by and you're continuing to be compensated as your expertise develops. What else do you need? Private practice can be very lonely, but it doesn't have to be. What about a way to not only go through the course itself, but to be with other people on this private practice journey in a community of like minded clinicians to encourage and support you? That's why I'm also giving you access to a private Facebook group with built in community, support, and accountability. There are even badges that you can claim when you've reached certain milestones, people to ask questions of, and share what they're doing for feedback and advice. This group is separate from the SLP Private Practice Beginners. It's an exclusive Facebook group just for people working their way through this program. You'll be shoulder to shoulder with other private practitioners. I want you to have access and be able to get your questions answered by myself and by a couple paid mentors I have who are in the group answering questions when I'm unavailable, as well as other people who have been members and started their private practices and are now giving back to our private practice community. It's really nice to have other people to bounce ideas off with and to get your questions answered. And the last thing you need? Access to me or members of my team who do monthly live group Q&A calls. Every single month, myself or a member of my team will do an hour-long group coaching call where you can get your specific questions answered. This works for people who've worked in schools, hospitals, SNFs, home health, early intervention, other people's private practices, university clinics, telepractice, and any other thing I left out. Basically, it works for clinicians with all kinds of backgrounds. And it will work for you too. I know a lot of people use being scared of making a mistake or the fear of failure to justify why they haven't taken the first step to start a private practice. But that excuse isn't going to work anymore if you follow the steps that I give you, because the steps are all laid out. For example, Module 2 is called Protect Your Private Practice. This is where we talk about all of the legal aspects, many more than I mentioned in the presentation. I want to make sure that you know exactly how to reduce your risks and make sure that you're covering all of your bases. And Module 3 is where I help you get clients. So if finding clients is one of your fears, I'll walk you step by step through that too. I want to spend a few minutes talking to you if you're feeling nervous about this. My guess is that you are amazing. And I bet that the more amazing you are, the harder it is for you to believe it, right? I've had a rare opportunity to mentor thousands of SLPs, OTs, and PTs from around the world. What's interesting is when I look at all of these people and the lives they are changing, almost all of them have felt an internal pull to help people. It's almost like a voice inside telling them that they're destined for greatness. They were nervous, but they did it. This is some feedback from people who have joined the course. People have said things like, it gave me the confidence that I needed, eliminated all of the guesswork, made them feel like they're not alone in this process. And one person said, I have always dreamed of owning my own private practice, but never felt qualified or had any idea where to start. After 3 years in the schools and 1 year in the clinic, my husband and I decided that it was time for me to take the leap and that this was the perfect program to help me feel centered and confident in my pursuit of working for myself. Lifetime access to this entire system is valued at over $4,273. Now, I'm not going to charge you $4,273, but I have a question for you. Let's just say that that was the actual price that you were going to be paying today. If all of this program did was give you the peace of mind that you've done it the right way, would it be worth it? Now, I had two choices. The first option was to go as cheap as possible and sell as many as possible. but I worry about oversaturating the market with too many private practitioners. Now, my second option requires a little bit higher investment, but in exchange, I can devote more resources to virtually guarantee your success. The question isn't if you'll make your money back, it's how many times over you'll be able to do it. What would having a successful private practice be worth to you? Let me know in the chat. How many sessions would you like to do per week? If you're doing this on the side, you can easily swing 1, 2, or even 4 sessions per week. What if you got off work by 3 p.m. and had half days, or were willing to treat part of the weekend? How many clients would you be able to fit in? Would you like to be able to generate this kind of income on an annual basis? How cool would it be if you could generate an extra 20,000 a year or even 100,000? Would that change your life? You've been thinking about it and now you know the math behind these numbers. How cool would it be if you were able to follow this process and start and be successful like this in your first year? Do you realize how rare that is in most businesses? Most businesses take years to be profitable. We can be profitable almost immediately, especially if you follow the steps I outline in this course. Would it be worth it to you to invest in something that could lead you to using the clinical skills that you already have to earn money as a private practitioner? No middleman, just you and Uncle Sam. You do have to pay taxes on this income, but I teach you how to do that too. I hope that you're starting to see this as an investment. This is not a cost. It's not something that you're going to purchase and use up and throw away or outgrow, or it's going to break or you might lose it or something. This is information, tools, and resources that you can use to build a better future and a better life, not only for your family, but for your clients and their families too. Isn't that cool? So how many of you think it would be worth it to invest $4,273 knowing how quickly you can recoup that money and in how few sessions? So now you see it. It's not a cost, it's an investment. So you can see why right now, several regular clinicians who are scared but excited are choosing to invest in themselves and these resources every single day. So you can see why this is a really good deal at $4,273. And while I'm planning to eventually sell this for $997, because you're on this training, I'm going to do a special deal for you. So you can access the full course today for your first payment of $97. You guys, you can absolutely pick another option if you want to, and if you can find one, but you're not going to get this level of resources or ongoing support anywhere else. That's why I designed this program this way. Now, I have a philosophy in my company that if I can't make you money, I don't deserve yours. And I believe that, and I stand by that. So come on in and try it, and if you don't make money, I'll give it back to you because I don't want it. In fact, I have that backed up by a guarantee. Sign up today, and if for any reason, I don't care if it's 59 days, 23 hours, and 59 minutes from now, just let me know and I'll give you your money back. Here's the key. You don't have to make that decision today. The only thing you have to decide today is whether or not you think this might work for you. Because if you think it might work for you, then say yes and try it. But make the decision about whether you actually want to keep it within the next 2 months. Don't worry about that decision right now. If you think it might work for you, if the answer is yes, then you need to say yes and get started today. So you'll choose a plan. You have 2 different options here, and you'll get all of the different bonuses no matter which plan you choose, but you will save some money if you do the full pay option. So what you need to do right now is to look for the button below this video. Enter your information and you're good to go. You can literally start your private practice right now. As soon as your payment is processed, you'll see this page and will be asked to take the new member survey. It's important for me to understand who you are and what unique needs you have so that I can create future content that solves those needs. I need you to realize that starting a private practice does take work. If it didn't, everyone would do it. Private practice is for people who want to work hard and then play hard. It's for people who want to be their own boss and people who want to reap the professional, personal, and financial rewards that come with it. But if you're not willing to take action, private practice isn't right for you, and this course isn't right for you. Having said that, private practice takes work, but there are very specific steps that basically any clinician can follow and start their private practice with relative ease. But you do have to be willing to do the work and take action. Does that make sense? It's not set it and forget it, but I have it more down to a science where it's more like paint by number or follow a recipe. So just to remind you, you're going to get the Start Your Private Practice course, the checklists, the worksheets, the to-do list, all of the bonuses, built-in accountability, access to the private Facebook group, and again, all of the bonuses and monthly live Q&A calls. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the timer, and I've prepared a couple of my frequently asked questions that I want to make sure to answer because these are the things that people ask about the most. So one of my most frequently asked questions is, does this cover private pay, insurance, Medicare, and Medicaid? And the answer is yes. Students in this program learn how to access all methods of payment. I clearly lay out the differences between each of them and help you decide which is the best for you to start with. So not only have the students learned the steps for how to accept payment using the methods that I talked about, but they are actually getting paid, as you can see from these screenshots from the student group. Another question I hear a lot is, can I really start debt-free? And the answer is yes. I even have a training on how to afford high price assessments, as that is something that beginners often get stuck on. Will it work for you? Yes. People always want to know if this system will work for them, and the answer is yes. This is not a DIY or do-it-yourself program. It's a done with support system. There are comprehensive videos and checklists. If you can follow directions and are willing to do the work, you can do this. Another question people want to know is, how long does it take to get your first client? So when people get their first client, when they fill out the little survey to have me send them a card after they get their first client, one of the questions I ask is, how long did it take you to get them? So as you can see, these were how some people answered. These are just screenshots, right? 1 month, 3 months, 2 weeks, 15 days, super quick, 2 to 3 weeks, about a month. So, it takes a pretty short amount of time once you start doing the work and putting yourself out there. Another thing that people ask me all the time is, are there discounts? And the answer is no. I don't believe in discounting, and I don't think that you should either, right? When you have value to provide and you give a discount, it's like saying that the information wasn't valuable enough. So no, I do not give discounts. There are not coupon codes for this course, so don't waste your time looking for them on the internet. They don't exist. Another thing that people ask is the price going up? And the answer to that is yes. The price of this course is going to continue to grow up because of the value that it provides. What is the salary cap at your regular job? 75,000, I don't know, 90,000. You have unlimited earning potential with this information. There is no ceiling on your income. Every few months, I add a new bonus or a training, and you will get access to all of that for free. I know that this program is worth way more than I'm charging for it, which is why I feel very validated in raising the price every 6 months or so. If you want this information and you plan to use it in the next 6 months, now is the time to join. Also, when people get their first client, I ask them, what would you tell people on the fence about joining the program? And these are some of the things that they say. This is how I want to close this presentation, okay? So one person said, do it and don't look back. It's so worth it. Another said, do it before you do anything else. Invaluable information that takes out all of the guesswork. I hope I've made that clear that this is basically a paint by numbers system where you do the work and you'll get clients and you'll have started your private practice, okay? Another person, all these people said do it on this side. Another person said, do it. It was the best decision I have made to date when it comes to my own private practice. It helps give you the confidence and the support you need. Another person said, it's worth the peace of mind. And another said, taking the first step is so much easier with this program to guide you. If you need detailed steps to get started, mentorship, and community support specific to private practice in our profession, there is literally no better resource out there. And lastly, someone said, just go ahead and join. Best decision ever. I would love to help you start your private practice. Click the button below and let's get started today. Let's change your life, the life of your family, the lives of the people in your community that you can only do through private practice. Hit that button, and I cannot wait to welcome you into the members area and help you start your private practice. See you on the other side.